My family used to call me their golden girl. Turns out, they meant it literally. Every paycheck, every dime, every ounce of trust, all gone. And when I took it back, they called me evil. I used to send my parents $550 every single week, every Friday, like clockwork. I told myself it was so they could live comfortably, but if I'm honest, it was guilt. The kind of guilt they'd spent my entire life teaching me to carry. For 3 years straight, I made sure they never went without. Dad's blood pressure meds, mom's rent, the car that constantly broke down every 6 months, I covered it all. They never said thank you. Not once. It was just expected. Like I was the family ATM, programmed to keep their lives running. Meanwhile, my sister Rachel, the golden child, never paid a dime. She was always their favorite. Blonde hair, big smile, the pageant baby. They'd brag about her job, her boyfriend, her new haircut. Me? I was just the responsible one. The one who fixed everything they broke. Even my husband, Tyler, would ask why I kept doing it. "Barb, why do you let them treat you like this?" he'd say, and I never had a real answer. Maybe I just couldn't picture what life would look like if I stopped trying. And then there was my son. Our little boy, their grandson. They barely acknowledged him. Never babysat. Never asked about his favorite color, or what shows he liked. My mom once said she didn't feel connected to him because he looked too much like Tyler. That one stung. Still, I kept trying. I sent pictures, invited them over, even offered to drive them to see him. Every time, I hoped maybe this would be the moment they changed. Then came his 3rd birthday. We threw a little backyard party, nothing fancy, just balloons, burgers, and a bulldozer-shaped cake he picked out himself. For weeks, he kept saying, "Grandma and Grandpa are coming." We even made a little sign that said, "Welcome family." They never showed. I waited all day. After the candles were blown out, after the laughter faded, after everyone left. I sat on the porch watching my son fall asleep on Tyler's shoulder, frosting on his shirt and one shoe missing. My heart was heavy. I picked up the phone and called. Dad answered. "Hey," I said quietly, "we were waiting for you." There was a pause, just silence, the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears, and then he said it. "We don't count your family." Click. He hung up. I just sat there, staring at my reflection in the dark screen. No tears. No screaming. Just this still, terrifying calm. Like something inside me finally snapped into place. So I opened my laptop. Logged into every account, utilities, rent transfers, the grocery card, their bank access. And one by one, I shut them all down. I even called their landlord, told him to contact them directly. 40 minutes later, my phone started lighting up like fireworks. Mom called 7 times in 10 minutes. Left voicemail saying I was selfish, heartless, ungrateful. That I owed them because they were my parents. She even called Rachel, then Tyler, and when no one answered, she showed up at my grandmother's house screaming like a banshee. But Grandma already knew. I told her everything that night. And for once, she didn't make excuses for them. When Mom started yelling in the driveway, Grandma walked out, calm, steady, the way only old women who've seen it all can be. Then she did something I'll never forget. With one sharp, echoing slap, the kind that stops time, she looked my mother dead in the eye and said, "How dare you treat your daughter like that? You're lucky she gave you anything at all." I watched the whole thing from the car. My son was asleep in the back seat, clutching his little plastic truck in his tiny hand. And that's when it hit me, the shift I'd felt earlier. I wasn't their daughter anymore. I was a mother. And I was done letting the people who never protected me come anywhere near the child I swore to protect. After that slap, everything went quiet, too quiet. No calls. No texts. Just this heavy, suffocating silence hanging in the air like fog before a storm. And I knew better than to believe it was peace. With my mother, silence was never surrender. It was strategy. Rachel checked in every morning. "Sweet kid," she'd ask, "you sure you're okay, Barb? You sure you don't want to talk to them?" And every time, I told her the same thing, "I'm more than okay. I'm free." For the first time in years, I wasn't tracking due dates or mentally subtracting $550 from every paycheck. My phone didn't make me flinch anymore. The quiet, for once, was mine. But then Thursday came. I was at work when my email pinged, a forwarded message from our old phone provider. Apparently, my parents had tried upgrading to the newest models using my account. Both phones. Top tier. Like nothing had changed. I'd already shut that account down, but still, my blood boiled at the sheer audacity. I replied to confirm and got an immediate response, attempt blocked. Good. But that wasn't the end of it. Later that afternoon, Tyler found a plain white envelope wedged into our mailbox. No stamp. No return address. My name, written in my mother's perfect cursive. Inside was just one sheet of paper. "You can ignore us, but don't forget, family is blood. And your little boy has our blood too." That line. That one line. It was like ice water down my spine. That wasn't guilt anymore, that was a threat. I took a picture of the letter and drove straight to Grandma's. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel the whole way. She read the letter twice, didn't say a word, then slowly sat down and looked me dead in the eye. "It's time they learn what survival looks like without you," she said. Then she reached into her drawer and pulled out a small notepad, filled with neat handwriting and numbers. Every rent payment. Every bill. Every grocery run. Every car repair. 3 years worth of my sacrifices, all documented. My grandmother, the quiet observer, had been keeping track all along. She smiled softly. "We're not going to hurt them," she said. "We're going to show them." And that's exactly what I did. First, I called their dentist and removed my name from their file. Then the pharmacy. Then I emailed their landlord asking for a copy of their lease. I wanted to see how deep the hole was. Turned out, they hadn't paid rent that month. The next day, my phone rang again, an unfamiliar number. I didn't answer. A minute later, Rachel texted me. They just showed up at my work. My heart dropped. I called immediately. Apparently, Mom and Dad had walked into her office like it was Sunday brunch, smiling, pretending nothing was wrong. They asked her for $300 to get through the week. Rachel told them no. She said, if you want money, ask the daughter you actually respect. Dad exploded. He started yelling, told her she was a disappointment, that I'd turned her against them. Same script, new target. That night, Rachel came over with a bottle of cheap red wine and this look in her eyes I'd never seen before, distance. They don't care about us, she said quietly. They only care about what they can get. I nodded. Yeah, I whispered, I know. Then she asked, so, what's next? That's when I told her about the account. Back when I was managing everything for them, I had set up a little side account, just in case of emergencies. My name only. No one else knew about it except Tyler and Grandma. And every week, when I sent that $550, I'd quietly slip $100 more into that account. Week after week. Month after month. By the time I finally cut them off, it had grown to just over $15,000. When I told Rachel, she froze mid-sip. Why didn't you ever use it for yourself? She asked. I smiled bitterly. Because I wasn't ready to walk away yet. I thought I'd need it, for them. But now? I had a new plan. The next morning, I hired a process server. Quietly gathered every receipt, every transaction, every transfer I'd made over the past 3 years. Grandma co-signed a statement confirming everything. It wasn't about suing them. I didn't want a dime back. This was about proof, establishing a paper trail before they started spinning their story. Because I knew my parents. The second they realized the free ride was officially over, they'd get loud. They'd call everyone they knew and cry about how their cruel daughter abandoned them. Not this time. 2 days later, they were officially served. Not with a lawsuit, but with a formal legal notice severing all financial ties, and a warning that any attempt to use my name for credit or bills would be treated as fraud. Rachel called me that evening, half laughing, half terrified. She said Dad screamed at the mailman for 5 solid minutes, and Mom sat in the driveway chain-smoking until the ashtray overflowed. Then came the text. Just one line, from my mother. I hope your son never treats you the way you treated us. I stared at it for a moment. No anger, no sadness. Just, nothing. Because for the first time in my life, her words didn't have power over me anymore. After the slap, I thought maybe, just maybe, the storm had passed. But a few nights later, my phone rang at 2 a.m. Grandma. Her voice was trembling. Someone broke into the shed, she whispered. Locks busted. Everything's tossed around. She tried to downplay it, nothing major stolen, but then she paused. That box of your old things, it's gone. My stomach turned. That wasn't just old things. That was my life. Baby pictures, letters I'd written as a kid, my school awards. Pieces of me she'd kept safe when I left home. We didn't even have to say their names. We both knew. I didn't sleep. Tyler sat next to me on the couch, his hand over mine, as I scrolled through every frame of our security cameras like a detective in a bad crime show. My skin crawled. 3 times I crept into my son's room just to check he was still there, breathing softly under his blanket. Something inside me flipped that night. This wasn't guilt anymore. This was a message. They were reaching into my past to rattle my present. Maybe even to scare me into handing over my future. And that's when I decided, phase 2. If they wanted to dig, then fine, let them dig. But they were going to find something sharp buried in the dirt. Something that would cut back. I knew exactly where to start. Uncle Dan. My father's younger brother. The black sheep. The man they blamed for everything from lost money to bad weather. He'd left the state years ago after some mysterious falling out they never explained. My parents spoke of him like he was a cautionary tale, a drunk, a loser. But I remembered something. I was 16, hiding at the top of the stairs one night, when I overheard my mom hissing into the phone with Grandma. Grandma's voice was like fire. You and Alan stole what was never yours, and Dan has every right to be angry. Back then, I thought it was inheritance drama. Some dusty feud. But now? With the threats, the break-in, the creepy letter in my mailbox? I wanted answers. I wanted leverage. So I called Uncle Dan. I told him everything, the money, the birthday, the letter, the slap, the shed break-in. For a moment, there was just silence on the line. Then he exhaled like a man who'd been waiting for this call forever. I've been waiting for this day for 20 years, he said. What do you mean? I asked. And then he told me. When my grandparents on my dad's side passed away, there was an inheritance for all 3 sons. But my grandparents didn't trust my father, not because he was careless, but because he was manipulative. They wrote up a will that divided the estate 3 ways, but with one condition. Barbara's portion would go directly to her when she turned 30. Barbara. Me. I didn't even know they died until 2 weeks after the funeral. My dad had told the lawyer I didn't want my share. That I declined it. I was 17. How could I decline something I didn't know existed? Dan had a copy of the original will. He'd suspected something all along but had no money to fight it back then. Now he offered to send me everything, documents, emails, even a letter my grandmother wrote me that was never delivered. I gave him my address. 3 days later, a thick package arrived. Inside was a handwritten letter dated 12 years ago. If you're reading this, it means you finally saw through the lies. You were always meant for better things. Don't let them take that from you. I sat on the kitchen floor, the letter trembling in my hands. Tyler slid down beside me, silent. Rachel came over that night. She read the letter, the will, then just whispered, "They're monsters." But the nightmare wasn't done. The next morning Rachel called, her voice sharp with panic. She'd gotten an anonymous email with an attachment, a folder of old photos. Her house. Her front door. Her car. Even her bedroom window. The email said only, "Pick a side fast." She called the cops immediately. They told her without a direct threat, there wasn't much they could do. This wasn't guilt anymore. This was intimidation. Once upon a time, it might have worked. But now? Now I had Uncle Dan. I had the will. I had my grandmother. I had Rachel. And they had nothing. So I went to a lawyer. I laid it all out, the money trail, the threats, the will, the letter. The lawyer was calm but blunt. "If this holds up, it's going to get ugly for them fast," he said. He flipped his screen around. My heart lurched. There was a trust. In my name. Still active. I stared at the screen, numb. My grandparents had set up a trust one couldn't touch until I turned 30, the very same year I started sending my parents money every week. They'd been draining my paycheck while quietly sitting on mine. Worse still, the lawyer found 3 forged withdrawals. Small, sneaky amounts, $2,000 here, $1,500 there. My parents had been signing my name. He leaned back. "This isn't family drama anymore," he said. "This is theft. Fraud. You could press charges." I didn't answer. Not yet. Because for the first time, the power was on my side. That night, Rachel showed up at my door again. She didn't even knock, just walked in like she couldn't stand to be alone. Her hands were shaking, her face pale. She'd just gotten off the phone with Mom. Apparently Dad had completely lost it, screaming in the house, punching cabinet doors until the hinges popped. He was yelling about how he was tired of being disrespected, tired of being cut off like trash. And then Mom did what she always does. She tried to twist the knife. She begged Rachel to convince me to call off the lawyer, to stop destroying the family for money that was never yours anyway. That phrase, "never mine anyway." It hit me harder than I expected. Because it was like a window into how they'd always seen me, not as a person, not as their daughter, but as a resource. A tool. A vein to tap. For once, Rachel didn't play neutral. She told Mom if she ever called her again, she'd block the number. She'd already filed a police report about the creepy photos. Then, like she couldn't hold it in anymore, she told me something that made my stomach twist. "Remember that silver bracelet Mom always wore?" she asked. I nodded. Supposedly it had belonged to our great-great-grandmother. A family heirloom Mom would talk about with misty eyes. Rachel gave this bitter laugh. "She pawned it last month. For $80. I shouldn't have been surprised, but I was. Because that was Mom's pattern, wrap something in fake sentiment, then cash it out the moment it stopped serving her. 2 days later, everything cracked open. Grandma called. Her voice was steady but sad. "They're out," she said. "Evicted. 2 months of unpaid rent. No more credit in your name. They don't know how to survive without you." Apparently, they tried begging the landlord to let them stay, saying their heartless daughter had abandoned them, that I was hoarding money out of spite. He wasn't interested. That same evening, Tyler noticed an old blue sedan idling across from our house, engine running. Just sitting there. He stepped outside, and the car sped off. We called the police immediately. We gave them everything, the photos Rachel had received, the break-in at Grandma's, the forged withdrawals from my trust, the harassment. This time, they opened a case. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You don't get to win." I stared at it for a long time. And then I realized, I wasn't trying to win. I was just done losing. The final call came on a Tuesday. Not from Mom. Not from Dad. From the sheriff's department. They'd been picked up after trying to use my old ID at a check cashing place. The clerk recognized my name and flagged it. When the police searched them, they found a folder with Rachel's address inside. Photos of her house. Her car. Her bedroom window. They weren't just spiraling. They were planning something. The officer recommended filing a restraining order. I didn't hesitate. I filed one for myself and my son. Rachel did the same the next morning. That was it. That was the line they crossed with no way back. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt peace. Grandma invited us all over the weekend after the court orders were signed, me, Tyler, Rachel, and my little boy. She made pot roast and wore her old pearls. She said she felt like celebrating. At one point, she pulled me aside and handed me a small box. Inside was a locket, not expensive, not flashy. But when I opened it, there was a photo of me as a toddler and another of my son from his birthday party. "This," she said softly, "is the family that matters." Then she looked me dead in the eye. "You know, I slapped your mother because I was angry. But if I ever see her again," she smirked. "It won't just be one slap." We laughed, really laughed, for the first time in weeks. A few days later, Tyler and I used part of the trust money to finally fix up the backyard. Nothing extravagant, just enough to build a little playhouse. Our son calls it his work zone. He's obsessed with tools now. Rachel moved into a small place a few miles away. She comes over every Friday for dinner, helps babysit on weekends. We've never been closer. As for my parents, they vanished. Last we heard, they were crashing with a cousin out in the desert. No car. No job. No money. Uncle Dan sent me a photo a few weeks later. He'd spotted them at a gas station. Said they didn't even recognize him, just 2 empty faces walking out of a convenience store with a bag of chips and a 6-pack. And I didn't feel bad. Not even a little. Because this wasn't revenge. Not really. This was correction. This was what happens when you spend your whole life burning bridges and finally run out of wood. And in that moment, I finally understood something Grandma had told me when I was 16 and crying after another fight with Mom. Sometimes the only way to move forward is to let the dead things stay buried. So I did. And now we're happy, quiet, normal, free. They don't count my family? Good. Because they're not part of it anymore.